Something like that, right?
There it is.
Darcy B. Darcy Blue. She is there. And we are live. And Wild West is always, always, always the first one. And it seems like always telling us we need to buy a watch when he needs to buy a watch. Just throwing it out there.
We have a very special guest tonight. Kind of honored to have Mr. Petersen on here. A man that bad luck tends to follow around.
Just a little. Yeah.
You are a poster boy for insurance.
I love it.
It seems like you're always able to come out on top, and
living right.
Squeeze the proverbial lemons, and turn it into lemonade. But, I think you're a great example. I mean, first off, you're in a very competitive market. You've got a great business, but my collar isn't working right. And, but you're a great example for crap happens, I mean, just you never know what's going to happen whenever you're running a business. And you've had your share of, from golly, when we first really started talking, I think it was the Facebook or the review.
The review attack.
The review attack, that you had where somebody was out there just killing you with 1-star reviews, hundreds of 1-star reviews.
Wasn't it like 161 or something like that?
217, I believe it was.
217 1-star reviews overnight.
Yes. Yeah.
Dang.
Yep. It was crazy.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had that. I've had a dead tree. I've had a sick dog get chlorine, licked chlorine. The homeowner let the dog out, and the dog licked a puddle of water and chlorine or something. So the dog was throwing up, whatever. That dog was fine. I was blamed for a broken window that was 3 stories in the air during a soft wash, and then after I paid for it, the homeowner smiled and said that he taught me a lesson in business about getting pictures. He admitted that it was
I'd have broke the window when I left.
Yeah, it was kind of like one of those things. Karma got him. He lost the house in foreclosure.
Good.
I've had you name it. Name it. I mean, I have, idiots in my service area, other businesses. So, you know how it goes.
Oh yeah. that part I do.
So tell us a little bit about what happened this time around. But before you do, actually, let me say this. When I saw the video, I mean, first of all, it's touching because you genuinely care about the people that you work with. And I think that that's something you should be applauded for to begin with, and then running the business properly. But anyhow, tell us what happened.
So I was in the office. I have an office about 7-8 minutes from my house. So, I go to the office some days, and some days I'll jump in the truck, and they don't know what I'm going to do every morning. Some days I'll get in the truck, some days I won't. So this particular morning, I decided to go to the office. So I go to the office. I'm at my desk, and I have an office assistant named Erica. She's sitting at her desk. The 2 texts went out, and I got 2 texts going out in one truck right now, and I'll go out and do little stuff here and there and whatever. So I get a phone call, and he goes, "Hey man, Martin says that Jason's acting right, something's wrong. He's dumb." I said, "Okay." I said, "What do you mean he's acting right?" He says, "Oh, he's feeling dumb or hurting, whatever." So, all right, well, let me know what you need. Send him to the doctor. Follow him. Is he all right? Is he allergic? No, he's good. Mind you, the guy's 39, 40 years old. So, and he's never been stung before. So about 40 minutes goes by, and I get another phone call. This time it was, "Hey, G, we got to run." And I was telling you guys earlier in the video, Jason's a black male, and he's very dark. And Terrell also is dark skinned, and he's like, "Hey man, he's literally like white, bluish. He's not acting right." I said, "Put him on the phone." I said, "Are you all right? Are you all right?" And he's like, "Hey man, I don't even know where I'm going right now. What time did you call? Did you call everybody?" I'm like, "Call everybody." So I was like, put T back on the phone. I said, "The first urgent care you can find in your phone, go. Just get them and drag them." They left my equipment at the homeowner's house. Everything's taped up, bagged up. They didn't even tell the homeowner. So then he calls me again. He gets him in the truck, calls me again, and says, "Hey, man, he's out." I said, "What do you mean he's out?" He goes, "He is out. Gone." I said, "Jesus Christmas." I said, "Just drive." I said, "Don't stop at red lights and drive around cars. Just get him to the urgent care. I don't care what happens. Don't stop for anybody." So me realizing, oh, God, he's going to really literally do this. He will run red lights and do it. I decided I'm going to call 911 from my desk, 45 minutes away from the area. Luckily, I grew up down there, so I kind of know the area. Call 911, tell them that, I have an unresponsive 39-year-old black male, in a passenger seat, totally unconscious, out of it, and a black male driving a Chevy 2500 truck, get into an urgent care. That way they can get an ambulance going. I don't know how urgent cares are in every state, but not every urgent care in New Jersey, they're all different. So I didn't know what they could do for him. I'm thinking this dude, and I called Steve back and said, "How is he?" He goes, "Man, I don't think he's breathing." I said, "Jesus, go faster." I get back on the phone with the 911. I said, "Listen, he is out. He doesn't believe he's breathing." So the ambulance was about 4 minutes behind them. So the timing was great. So they hit him with an EpiPen. And he got up from the EpiPen, and a few minutes goes by, and he literally went back down. This time he wasn't getting up. They're sticking his chest. They're everything. At this point, I jump in the van. Now, I drive a work van. I think you guys have all seen that van. Yeah, I drive the $500 piece of crap while my guys drive the $40-some thousand pickup. Yeah. I got no air conditioning. These guys got everything. Whatever. Right. So I jump in that van, and I shit you not, I was 100 miles an hour in that van, and I'm driving. I'm like, oh my God, I got to call his sister. So I call his sister, and all you guys already know at this point, you guys know me. I'm very, I care about a lot of people. If I don't like you, I'll say it, but I still care. I say
you wear your shit on your sleeve.
Yeah, I call his sister, and I said, I said her name. I said, "Listen," I said, "I need you to get to the hospital. Jason got stung." She goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "He got stung by hornets. I know nothing." I said, "They're in urgent care. We have an ambulance meeting him, and there's paramedics." But at this point, she goes, "Is he okay?" I couldn't talk. I was literally like a 7-year-old kid. You stole a popsicle from. I was crying. I'm like, and I said, "Kia, I don't know, Kia." I said, "You just need to get there. You need to go now." The Kia gets there, whatever. But they stopped. Apparently, they had stopped and let the paramedics now into the back of the ambulance. So we have ambulances, and we have paramedics. In New Jersey, there isn't paramedics inside every ambulance, only when there is respiratory or death. So when the guy called and said, "Hey, man, they're letting paramedics into the ambulance," I lost it. Called my wife. I'm hysterical. I'm crying on the phone. Like, what about his daughter? We need to call his we need to call his sister. It's only his daughter, his sister. I'm like, what am I going to do? She goes, "You need to calm down." I was hyperventilating. Like, I feel like I'm going to cry right now. I swear to God. I'm going to try not to.
So they're not even en route to the emergency room, and they're pulled over on the side of the road giving life-saving measures.
They pulled off into our urgent care was apparently in a shopping center where they were. So they pulled off in the paramedics. And then when the other guy said that, I'm like, oh my God, he's dead. He's dead. Oh my God. I'm literally crying my eyes out. When I get to the hospital, I run inside, and they're like, "Hey, listen, COVID, we can't let you in." I said, "Is he alive?" And they said, "Listen, his sister's back there. We can't let you in." I said, "You need to, I'm his boss. This is a work injury. I need to know." They're like, "We can't tell you anything." Okay. So I go back outside, and I sit there, and I'm calling his sister's phone, which I don't know how many people are on, but if you do not have your employees' emergency contacts in your cell phone right now, you need to start doing that and create that, because if this man would have died because it took me 2 hours to find a phone number, God forbid. So write a note.
That's an awesome point.
First thing I thought about this morning whenever I had that, and we're good, but we need to verify that and update all of that. Yeah.
And I even said to her, I said, "Is he allergic?" She says, "No." But she's like, "He's never been stung." So after the final shot they gave him, woke him up, I guess he had to stay 7 hours in the hospital with no issues, and they would release him. So he got the 7 hours. I waited outside on a park bench. I sent everybody home, and I waited outside on a little park bench, sat there all day until he came out. The first thing he looked at me and he said to me is he said that he was sorry.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that's tough, brother. You know, I think that the best thing about this, though, is just one of the things you're talking about, all the tips, being able to making sure that you have the employees' families' numbers so that you have emergency contacts. And I don't know if a lot of people know, but you save it as ICE in case of emergency. So ICE, and then you have that number in there. So, man, that's that's probably a great tip. And it's
unfortunately, I've been on the receiving end of something similar to that you know, not going to go into, and it's, I promise you, it is the worst feeling in the world to get phone calls like that you are helpless to do anything about, you know, and it's bad, but you know, thank God that you know first off, thank God that he's okay, you know. I mean, right. First and foremost, I mean, but what a blessing for an employee that actually, you know, he comes out and says, "I'm sorry to you."
I mean, looked at him. I said, "Man," I said, "if I didn't like you, man, I'd sting you again." I said, "Man, man, you owe me nothing. Like, you know, literally you owe me nothing. Like, just you know, take your time off." And
yeah,
you know, listen, the other guy who got hurt, I had a guy get hurt a few weeks ago on a slip and fall.
Yeah,
and you know, maybe not everybody in my area does this, and that's up to them. But I don't use their vacation time or sick time.
Right.
That's different. I pay it out, and you know what? I eat shit. I eat it.
Yeah. No, we had a guy last year that tweaked his back, and you know, workman's comp's like a week or so in Florida before it pays off, and you know, because it was a back injury, workman's comp was jerking him around a lot, and we always did Aflac policies for our guys. Every guy had an emergency Aflac policy that we paid for because it was like $25-$30 a month, you know. And then second off, I mean, we cooked the guy dinner for his family, brought dinner out to him, gave him extra money, you know, just made sure he didn't miss a paycheck at all, even before his Aflac or his thing kicked in, because, you know, I mean, it was like, even if workers' comp is a jerk and says, no, we're not going to let our guys suffer because of that. So.
And you know, here's
the employer stepping into the spotlight to help that employee.
Yep.
And the thing with this employee in particular, not putting his personal business out there, but he doesn't really need to be here.
Right.
He doesn't need the job. So for him to wake up every morning and come to work and to take pride and you know, come to find out, he's handing out flyers on the weekends. I just found this out. He's putting them in restaurants and, you know, in his area. I mean, he's really just a solid dude that just wants to work. And, you know, for him to apologize to me when he's walking out of a hospital,
I hate to tell you this, though, Jerry, that he's working for a solid guy. That's why he's working.
Yeah, true. Absolutely. I mean, you know, we tend to be we tend to show we're a product of we birds of a feather. How about that, for lack of a better term? You know, I mean, birds of a feather flock together. So, good point here that Noelle from Tropical Softwash said her husband is allergic to bees. Make sure EpiPens are in all the first aid kits. They don't like the Florida heat. Be sure to check them and make sure they're still good, not discolored. So, very important.
EpiPens are something I wish that you could get without a prescription.
Yeah,
kind of a thing, because I think that there's probably, you know, Tim Hazelton can pop in here and say what he wants on that, because I just feel like that they should be part of a medical kit, and that there should be a way that you can get them, maybe take some special training or whatever to be able to have the EpiPen, because there are lots of people that have no idea that they're allergic to bees or peanuts or just different things that, you know, you can go into anaphylactic shock just like that. So
yeah, and it's crazy.
We should be able to listen. Narcan, we can get Narcan. We should be able to get these life-saving things that are, you know, a Narcan, or, you know, let's be honest, guys. In the service industry, some areas are harder than others. Some areas, you know, we don't always know what we're hiring, And to have a Narcan on a truck or an EpiPen on a truck or insulin on a truck or something we could have in the first. I have a poison ivy kit on my truck.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have poison ivy kit, and we used it today. Matter of fact, we used it today. My other technician he brings his own poison ivy kits, his own first aid kits, and he runs safety meetings, and he's a good dude too. So I really honestly, this is the first year I can actually say I got solid guys, and we're expanding on there. So it's
awesome.
So Brian Petts made the comment. He says my guy that has his allergy says the EpiPens are like $500. Is that true?
It was $125 for 2 pens.
Wow.
Yeah.
With no insurance.
I was going to say I didn't think they were that much, but one of the things that I do know is that what they cost the insurance company and what they cost you can be two totally different things. Absolutely. Sometimes you go in, and if you are a self-pay, they think it's the insurance. This is one of the things I think is kind of wrong, but they're like, okay, well, we're billing the insurance at $7,000. Oh, you're a self-pay, it's $22.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Why
isn't it just $22?
It costed me $125 for the 2 EpiPens. I wouldn't even let him buy his own EpiPens.
No.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
So it was like $125.
And the story is absolutely amazing. But then going back to the business side of things, and I don't mean to minimize, what you've gone through, what he's gone through whatsoever, and I'm not trying to quantify this as the dollar value of employees or to that's not at all what I'm doing, but where I want to go here is talk about, us as business owners. But you realize, had you not been insured, had you not had the right workers' comp insurance, the right things, one thing like this could literally have bankrupted you. I mean, it could have put Petersen Pressure Washing out of business.
Oh, I mean, think about it. I mean, you got a guy that dies on your property. I said before, he has a child, so the child's going to sue, the estate's going to sue, and how do you put a dollar sign on someone's life? It's impossible, no matter what the cause was. And although a fluke accident, he's still entitled to the best medical care and the best insurance we can give him.
Right.
He's, all your employees are entitled to be able to walk in somewhere and not have to worry, if they're going to get a bill. And that was his worry, is that, that he was going to get a bill. And I said, what are you talking about? He's like, how big is the bill going to be? Like I said, he's well off. He was concerned because, like I said, urgent care, ambulance ride, ER. So he's a little like, wow, how much is going to be hit me once? The dude is completely covered.
Yeah.
And I'm betting that a lot of employees actually don't know. And I think it's our job as employers. I had the same thing happen when one of my guys got some sauce in his eye, and I'm taking him to the doctor and all that. And he's like, man, I can't afford this. I can't afford this. And I'm like, whoa. Back the train up. There is absolutely nothing here that's going to cost you money. I mean, whatever we have to do, whatever needs to be done, I mean, it's just going to get taken care of. And you've got, we as employers need to make sure that they know that. I mean, hopefully nobody's abusing the system, so to speak, but
Well, I mean, we could sit here like Florida. Florida is one of those states that if you're in the construction industry, you have to have workers' comp. We're technically not in the construction industry. So in Florida, if you have 4 or more employees, you have to have workers' comp. So I know there's lots of guys out there that don't have the workers' comp. But guys, I'm just telling you, it's the morally right thing to do to have the workers' comp. It's the morally right thing to do to get them some supplemental Geico policies. I mean, nobody should have the expectations to not be covered for a medical injury at work.
Mm-hmm. Well, not only that, but you face the total complete destruction of your company over something like a bee sting or like a ladder that's got a rusty hinge on it that breaks while somebody's trying to go up it. And I mean, they snap their leg, and then, it requires surgery, or they've got to go ahead and have an ambulance come pick them up, or, like in another case where, hey, somebody came out of a truck and they had to use a life flight come in. you know, I'm sure that there was still a charge for that life flight, even though it wasn't used, kind of a thing.
So I'm gonna grab something.
There's so many things out there that can happen just like that in an instant that, you know, not being insured is, you know, and I hear it where people say, I can't afford it. I can't afford it. Well, could you imagine, Jerry, if you didn't have the insurance, could you afford to pay all of what you would have had to pay today?
Think about what an ambulance ride alone is, a couple $1,000s for an ambulance.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the paramedics entering adds to the charge. I would assume. I mean, you're getting a paramedic. Now you got 2 paramedics. Then you got, you know, the ER, and then you got the doctors. And then, like I said, they went to an urgent care first, and they administered life-saving. So I got a bill from an out-of-network urgent care who is even in my network, because apparently there's a network for workers' comp. So that was part of the other thing too. But it's got to be 20 grand for this.
I think
easily an emergency room visit can be 20 grand. And, you know, something else while we're on the subject of insurance, you know, the other day we were on the subject of business insurance. It seems like a couple of weeks ago, you know, now, so this is more workers' comp and health insurance. And you just can't have too much insurance. And, you know, and it's been pretty well documented what I've gone through with my, you know, my shoulder. So I blew out my shoulder the other day, and I talked about this a couple of years ago, but my wife bought me an Allstate policy years ago. Well, Allstate disability and policy, after we felt like we were, you know, to a point where I wouldn't even say could afford it, but we needed it. It was like $170 a month for it's kind of like a Geico or Aflac on steroids.
Aflac.
Yep. And I mean, but I want to show y'all, like right here. So we have good insurance. I mean, my shoulder surgery, the subsequent re-injury, all of this stuff is, you know, really, that was taken care of by insurance. But my supplemental, and I had this out because the checks just came in yesterday. And I mean, so for my shoulder, right there, there's $1,200. There's $45 for one follow-up visit. And here is $3,240. And I mean, that's, you know, so we're at like $4,500 on there that I got paid for this surgery, which, you know, the money's great to have. I don't necessarily, I can always generally say I don't need the money, but had I been in a situation where I was an owner operator and I didn't have tax and really had my life impacted for a month and couldn't be on the wand because of this, you know, that money would have is what we would have eaten on. That money literally would have kept us afloat for a month or 45 days, 2 months.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm gonna look into that guy. All that stuff too, or that Aflac or what.
I'm
gonna look into that.
Yeah, any subsequent policy like that is a good thing to have. The same thing with when we talk about having umbrella policies and, you know, that kind of thing that will cover basically anything and everything. They're just important policies to have, and when you really think about the cost of them, they're really not that much. And for me, it's, you know, pictures are a form of insurance. Ray and I say that all the time. You know, using a ladder stabilizer to me is a form of insurance. Wearing your respirator anytime you're spraying bleach to me is a form of insurance.
Tyvek is insurance.
Yeah, Tyvek. But what about, do you guys have eye wash stations on your rigs? You know, that kind of thing. If you don't have eye wash stations, do you have, you know, bottles of water where you can clean out your eye? You know, because that's going to always happen at some point in time. You know, making sure the tires are good on the truck, that's a form of an insurance policy. You know, I mean, making sure your trailer's not overloaded and your axles aren't rusted out, and you know, if you've got a rusty old truck, I can tell you, I know somebody who's got their truck is so rusted out that the pump, one of the pumps fell out, right? And it was being dragged along the ground. Imagine if that thing came loose and went flying down and hit somebody. You know, I mean, that may be a rare thing to have happen, but the insurance behind you can really save your butt. That's why we titled this thing, you can lose your business just from a hornet sting.
Yeah. I mean, I know a termite company here in Florida that had a major lawsuit against them because the technician did not lock the ladder onto the rack of the truck. And the ladder on the interstate ladder flew off in traffic and went through somebody's windshield and killed them, Mm-hmm. And, now it's literally a fireable offense from that termite company that if your ladder is not up against the side of a house in active use, it had better be locked on that truck. You don't go put it back on the truck and say, oh, okay, I'll lock that before I leave. No, it better be locked on the truck. Mm-hmm. And checklist is just so important to have. And with me, selling my company and now working for a much, much larger company, I'm working for a mid-sized company that's owned by a large-sized company. So I'm getting 3 different levels of checks filtering down. What we did, what Crystal Clean does, and what Fleet Wash does. And I feel so good that our checks and balances at Spray Wash were really, really good. We had things like the workers' comp, like the health insurance. We had things like the eye wash stations and the medical kits and all the SDS sheets on our trucks. Now, the other things that we're seeing, I mean, it's amazing. Like we have to literally on our company phones, before a truck is taken out, we have to go in here and, and this is something that
you can walk through.
Yeah, we literally have to sign off on a, we've got our own webpage on there, and we have to go in there and sign off on a driver vehicle inspection report and submit it to corporate on there. Before we get onto a lift, we have to go and sign off on a lift inspection report. We have to, if there's an accident of any kind or a loss report, we have to go in there and submit that, so there's lots of checks and balances on there. And, and you may not have the money at your company to go and build a web page for doing that, but we all have accesses to pieces of paper and a computer printer that we can write.
Easily to print out. Yeah, matter of fact, I think inside Spray Wash Pro, we have those sheets anyhow. So they're available right there for pro members to grab at their leisure and use as they want. So,
absolutely.
Even if you're not a pro member, or you can find those online. There's so many things that you can do to protect yourself and to protect your company. Plus, I think it also shows a much higher level of professionalism. And one of the things I noticed the most about when Ray sold out his company, one of the things that happened was they sent a semi truck over to his shop. And what did they do, Ray? They just said, throw it away, throw everything away. Damage to it at all.
Yeah.
They threw all your stuff away? What did they throw away?
Just if it was old, throw it away. They didn't want rust on the racks. If it was more than a couple of years old, if I hadn't touched it, the rule was if I hadn't touched it in a year, throw it on the semi. And if it had any shine of wear or, the stuff that we sit there and use every day, we're like, okay, well, yeah, it's dented, it's dusty, it doesn't look professional. Oh, well, it is what it is. No, get rid of it. They don't want it represented with their name because things that are falling apart, they are wearing. How many of us guys have service trucks out there that if we went up there to the side of that service truck and hit that sumbitch with a hammer, it wouldn't rain down rust on the bottom side of it, it would.
Your hammer would just go right through the side of it.
I just bought mine, so it better give it a week.
Exactly, but how many trucks up north and where y'all are dealing with SH and the salt on the road and stuff. And these are all little things that, I'm convinced that God takes care of drunks, fools, and pressure washers, because there's a lot of guys out there rolling dirty that are just living by the pure luck of their life, that bad things aren't happening.
Well, I thought that everybody that was ever in this industry was a fool to begin with.
Yeah, I was going to say that may have been redundant there for
the. All right.
Yeah, you want to take that? I mean, I can tell you exactly what's happened there. I mean, if old SH, it's gotten dated. If you've mixed it with something, you mixed it with something that wasn't stable, because that reaction can take place from a day to a month, before it dies.
Yeah, even the water that you added to it, I mean, depending on what's in that water, because you've got irons and different things, different organic matter that's in there. And the bleach can attack that, I mean, right off the bat and weaken it. And then not only that, but a lot of times, and I've heard guys say, I just got the bleach yesterday, man. There's no way it's bad. And I'm like, okay, where'd you get it from? Well, I got it from, Tommy's garage. It's been sitting in there for 17 years.
Yeah.
Hey, there's the problem. Or I got it from XYZ company. They're a company that, okay, great. But they bought it from Univar or Brentag or whatever, was sitting at Brentag for 2 or 3 weeks. Then it went to their warehouse and it sat there for, a month, and then it went onto your truck. So even though you just got it yesterday, look at the tag on it, see how old it actually is. And then we also have things go wrong at the factory sometimes.
Can I ask a question?
If it went from yellow to white, though, I dare say that something caused a reaction to.
Yeah.
Jerry, what were you saying?
I wanted to ask a question about that. About the guy who was asking about SH. What's SH mean?
What's
soap for the house?
Wait. Let me do a Google search real quick.
It's one of those. SH is highly, highly, highly unstable. I mean, it will degrade. It will. I've told the story before, and I'll say it here because there's some new guys. But whenever I went from using 10.5 to 12.5, I didn't tell my guys, and I'm like, okay, take my 1,000-gallon tank, and I'm only going to fill it up to 800 gallons of SH. And I went and put the hose in the top and topped it off in 200 gallons of water. So I had 1,000 gallons of what I calculated to be 10.5%. Because I didn't want my guys bumping up to 12.5 and causing, plant mortality. Well, within a week's time, all remaining SH in there was dead. It was neutralized. And it was because I put in water from my city spigot that has a lot of calcium in there, and the calcium fought with the bleach. The bleach tried to neutralize the calcium, and once the calcium, once the bleach gets triggered and starts trying to kill organics, and this is basically what we talk about. One of the many things we talk about in the plant and property protection class coming up here, and we explain what bleach does and how it reacts. And this is oh, this is a good one. So do we use that?
Wait. Can I go back and answer Gerard's question though first before we move on to the next one? Can I?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let me share my screen real quick. Is that popping up? There it is. SH. This is what it is. Let me see if I can do this correctly. So SH is an interjection, Gerald. It is shh. Okay, that's what SH is. I just wanted to clear this up, get this out of the way right now. This is a
used. What does it say? Used used to urge silence. Got it.
Yeah, used to urge silence. That's what it is.
This question has been asked for many, many years of Facebook, and thank you for finally solving
the issue here.
We know what SH.
So we couldn't have this conversation without somebody picking on you about the maple tree. He's saying a red maple, but that's a Japanese maple. So
Japanese maple.
Yeah.
Man, I burnt that thing worse than my wife did on Thanksgiving dinner. Oh my God, that thing was so fried. Did I ever tell you how I did it?
No.
So I cleaned this lady's driveway, and she was very nervous about hiring a power washer anyway. I'm like, don't sweat it. I'm a pro. You know what I mean? So I go there.
I know where this is going, yeah.
So I go there and I clean the driveway, and I had just learned about post-treating and all this other crap. I'm fairly new. So I'm like, oh. So I go in my truck, I'm like, post-treating, and I see the X-Jet in a cardboard box. I'm like, what the hell is this thing? So I pull it out. I'm like, oh, baby. So I put it in my and I sprayed it. I was like, damn, my driveway cleaned up beautiful. And then apparently I sprayed the tree leaves and she died. Well, fried.
Mm-hmm.
It was the X-Jet's fault.
Yeah. Well, the funny part is if you look on the picture, if you look literally on the marketing picture of the X-Jet and the guys sitting there shooting the second story, gutter line on that X-Jet, it's literally making a mushroom cloud coming off of that
It is.
picture.
I'm sorry. Listen, I think that every product, and this is where people go wrong over the X-Jet downstream argument. I think if you don't have all the tools in your truck, you're just failing yourself.
Absolutely.
I don't use the X-Jet for house washing, but I'll tell you when I did use it. Remember when General Pump had all those issues with the downstream injectors, the springs kept popping and the O-ring kept popping? I went through 6 at one stop, got frustrated, and just X-Jetted the house. Hated it, but I got my job done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I like the X-Jet for concrete too. I like to give it a nice.
No, I mean, they're all just
Tools.
There's so many tools, and it's a crappy carpenter that shows up with one saw blade. You got. I want all of my trucks to have at least 3 ways to get their job done. Which, and typically speaking, our job is going to be applying bleach and washing off dead organic material on house. So in every truck, I've got an X-Jet. In every truck, I've got multiple downstreamers. And then in every truck, we have either a booster pump or an air diaphragm pump on there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most times in all of our trucks, we have a booster pump. We've got the 12-volt pump. And then we've got the pressure washer, but we never really use the pressure washer for applying any bleach at all, so not downstreaming or anything. So really just those 2 would be what we would use to wash down a house. But we could use the pressure washer for the rinse side of it, Right. So Chicagoland Soft Wash says, I've never had a claim in the years I've been doing this. How many claims do you have to have when they drop you? And is it a challenge to get another policy after that? Well, I can tell you for a fact, I don't think either one of us can answer that question for you. We can give you a generalized idea. I mean, but that's really a question that goes back towards your underwriter or your agent. I know sometimes if you have a lot of claims, it depends on the type of claim and the reason behind the claim. That's going to matter a lot in how you're viewed and how you're ranked. Look at it from a vehicle standpoint, okay? I've had the same insurance company for many, many, many years, like 40 years I've had Allstate, and never had, I think we had maybe 1 or 2 claims. Since 2016, when the flood happened, I think when we talked to them not too long ago, we had like 38 claims in a couple years. Just had another one this past week. My daughter's car got flooded out. Anyhow, what matters is the type of the reason that they're paying out, right?
We dropped him off as his thing. I know from my experience with what we went through a couple of years ago, we didn't get dropped by our insurance, and we had a mortality on there, and we still didn't get dropped because again, it wasn't something that we did. It wasn't something that happened with us. So we still have the same insurance in place. You're back, Doug.
Yep.
I think a lot of that's going to have to do with, one, how many claims you file. Also, what kind of insurance you have. I mean, if you're out here with, I'm guessing the lower tier insurance, if you're out here with the not an A-rated company, but one of the lower tier stuff, they're probably going to be a lot more apt to drop you than some of these bigger ones are.
Well, I asked the my claims adjuster today for the workers' comp. I said, listen, I've had 2 workers. Remember, in the past 2 months, I've had 2 workers' comp and a house fire. You guys remember the house fire?
Right. We weren't talking about that, but
we weren't going to mention it.
It's all right. We're all settled down now. I mean, the house fire, your panel caught on fire from a hole in the wall that was already, there was no hole in the siding. Not my fault, whatever. But they said they evaluate the amount of the loss compared to obviously what you bring in money wise.
Yeah.
And then they look at pretty much whose fault it was.
Mm-hmm.
If your guys were going 100 miles an hour and wrecked all your equipment and all that, well, most likely, yeah, you're going to get screwed. It was your fault. But one guy slipped and fell, and one guy, stung by hornets. You can leave right there. I get my groceries delivered because I'm bougie now.
Nice.
You can leave it right there. That's fine. Yeah, I'm bougie. I get my Target delivered.
That's a man who's doing well in life.
That's right. That's
yeah,
right.
I sent a refiner in my garage.
So it depends on so your underwriter was saying, hey, how much is it? How much do you bring in? And it becomes a cost basis.
Yeah, well, that's how, I don't think people always realize how their general liability works. Your general liability, if you do $30,000 a year in jobs, well, you're not going to pay the same amount of general liability as a company that's $400,000 a year in jobs. Right. And I'm not going to say the old insurance carrier that I previously had, but the old insurance carrier that I previously had said that I was only making $24,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
I did that, Ray, my numbers. That was
yeah. And that's one of the things too that with the insurance and with these insurances you need to sorry, distracted.
I know what he's distracted about. Yeah.
So, we need to be honest with our insurance.
You not like people drinking soda on watching them?
What's that?
You not like people drinking?
Yeah,
that's not it at all. That's not it. Yeah, nothing to do with
comment online. So, but the you need to be honest with your insurance company as well. You need to be. Absolutely. You need, when they say, hey, how much do you do in gross revenue? Well, if you're doing $300,000, you need to tell them I'm doing $300,000. If you're doing $600,000, tell them, because if you now are doing $500,000 and you're paying a policy based on you doing $250,000, you're going to have a problem.
How often do you get audited, Ray?
Well, for the workers' comp, yearly.
Every year, exactly. You get audited every single year.
Yeah.
How many times? There's an insurance company just came out. There's no audits. There's really not even. It's a really simple claims process called runner's insurance. So the fact is, if you get hit or you cause damage, just run.
Yeah.
And never find you.
On the workers' comp, like if you use a PEO, if anybody doesn't know what a PEO is, it's a professional employment organization, right? So what a PEO does is it takes Ray's company, my company, and Gerard's company and groups them all together. Okay, so it'll have hundreds, if not thousands, of companies grouped together, and then it provides workers' comp for all of them at the same time. That I don't have an audit with because they know exactly because they're the ones that are making the paychecks. I never received a paycheck from Cajun Soft Wash. It always came from my PEO company. What's that, Ray?
Yeah, my employee leasing, same thing. My employee leasing, my check came from Southeastern Personnel Leasing. That's who technically that's where my check was written from, as well as all of my old employees on there. As a matter of fact, the company that I work for now, they used the same company out there. So they based it. But believe it or not, there was still internal audits on there where they would do some checks and your insurance could go up and down. But I hear the nightmare all the time from friends in the business who say, well, yeah, I got audited on workers' comp, and I owed them an extra $2,500. And it's like, well, yeah, Dodo, you said your payroll was $20,000 when in fact you're paying $40,000 out in payroll.
Or $200,000 in payroll.
I mean, they actually have a lot more risk exposure than you've led them to believe.
Well, not
another reason was that
your classification code is everything. Don't misclassify to save a buck neither, because you'll screw
exactly. Yeah, because you may not be covered on. Well, your guys will still probably be covered,
right?
But one time, yeah. Because y'all
they're going to come back and they're going to fry you.
Oh, you guys out there running around with the janitorial where it says you're not allowed to be on a ladder, you're not allowed to run a piece of gas equipment. Like you are relegated to pushing a mop or using a vacuum cleaner. And a lot of guys have custodial workers' comp out there that does not, I mean, it skates the thin edge of whether you clean or not. But it does say you're not allowed to work off a ladder, and it says you're not allowed to work to use gas combustion engines on there. There's a ton of guys that have that, and their insurance brokers are the ones that actually set them up and do that to them and say, oh, well, we can classify you as this, and it's going to be a lot cheaper than the roofer's workers' comp for $1,800 $100.
And keep in mind that in a lot of cases, you can actually classify people differently within your company. So yes. I can classify myself as a salesperson or as an office person, let's say. I can classify Gerard as hey, that's my office manager, office help kind of guy. If he's not going out on the trucks and doing the job, right? And then I can take Ray and say he's employee number 7 and he's off on the truck and that's what he does. So he's the one. And not only that, you can also find out about different classifications within there, because like for my company, we could report anytime we went over 15 feet. So our rate would change. If we're staying under 15 feet, then we can be at that lower rate. Anytime the guys go over 15 feet, whether it's on a ladder, on a roof, in a lift, whatever the case may be, if they're over 15, you report it, and then that is classified differently when it comes to the workers' comp audit.
Jim Bob saying roofers in Rhode Island is $30 $100. And this is also something important. Everybody needs to understand there is no national workers' comp. Workers' comp is done on a state by state basis. So you need to, this is not something that we can answer blanket questions for on how it's done. There's some states out there that you literally cannot get workers' comp if you don't have more than X number of employees. They do not. I think Pennsylvania might be one of those where you literally cannot get it, but don't hold me true to that. But there are absolute states out there where unless you've got X amount, in that case, it's even more important to get you guys some Aflacs or Geicos or some kind of supplemental out there, because you can't cover them on workers' comp.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's important to have something there. Again, it's not only for protecting them, but for protecting you. And I mean, unless you just flat don't care about your employees, but even if you don't care about your employees, just like, I mean, anything can go wrong at any given point in time. Guys can get stuck by hornets or bees or whatever the case may be. And, here ensues a super huge financial problem that you can run into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you would have never woken up that day and thought that I'm going to have an employee, get stung by a hornet and have a, potentially life-altering issue right there, would you?
That would have. I'll tell you what. The only thing that could have made it worse would have died. Yeah. I don't know if it would have felt any worse, because I truly felt that way anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'll tell you what, it was devastating, because now you're, now if there's an active hive, we're leaving the house. Mm-hmm. We're leaving active hives. They have to have it removed. And, so now what I do is I subcontract an exterminator out who will respond to any location that I need him within an hour. So they respond. My guys will get paid for the time. He'll go out. He bills them. We get paid. Boom. Everybody wins. If that's what needs to be done, Hornets especially, we ain't messing with them.
No, not at all. I'm sorry, we hit the same thing at the same time. Crap.
And Michael, just so you know how we are. We don't have necessarily a complete agenda, or sometimes we start off with an agenda, like we are going to talk about this, and then we get off track, and we go wherever the conversation takes us, kind of a thing. So.
And again, I want to go back to this workers' comp thing of whenever you have the workers' comp, that it sucks to get that bill whenever you're not paying for your guys. Whenever you're saying, well, it's I've got $50,000 in payroll. Well, you understand when workers' comp comes in and audits you, workers' comp says, "Give me your books, give me your bank account." Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons you run your business like a business and you keep your receipts and you put it on QuickBooks and you don't dick around. And this is not your personal piggy bank. This is your business, because workers' comp really has the right to sit there and go, okay, well, there's a $300 withdrawal right here. Well, yeah, man, we went out to the bar. I needed some cash, and we were going to go out drinking. I took the guys out. Well, do you have the receipt of what that was for? No, I just took $300 out. Well, workers' comp considers that right there. You're going to pay workers' comp on that money in most cases. Whenever you start having cash withdrawals or unexplained checks to people out there, workers' comp will typically have the right to charge you back workers' comp on that money that's gone out of your account, because they go under the assumption that, well, you've hired somebody and paid them under the table.
You paid them cash under the table. There's really no reason to pull cash out of your business in the government's eyes, right? There's no reason for you to be spending cash, right, without a receipt. I mean, if you have a receipt for it, great, it's there and good. But aside from that, yeah,
I'm married. I haven't seen cash in.
Yeah. I can tell you, there's an anomaly. Every time I have cash, it's like there's a ticker that goes across my forehead, and my kids and that.
Like, I might not have money for months.
Yes.
At a time, like not even a single dollar bill in my wallet, and it's like if somehow I luck up upon a 20 or a 50 or 100, so there's like Tanya goes, "Hey, do you have any money on you?" How'd you know?
Yeah.
Smell it. They can smell it. They can.
We got paid the other day on a job with cash, and it was like the people insisted on giving us cash, and it's like, this is more of a pain nowadays, especially with the new company. It's like, this is more of a pain in the butt than the job is worth, because I've got to document the custody of this cash that I have and go put this someplace. And, and I think Crystal Clean is like, what the hell's cash? We don't deal with cash. Sorry.
There's almost no such thing as cash nowadays. It's getting there, Bitcoin, whatever. I have no employees yet, but this puts a lot into perspective. Great. That's our point here. That's part of what we're trying to do. I worked on our COVID unit at work for 6 months, and I just always assumed my employer had their bases covered and had my back. That's not really a good assumption to have. And even as an employee, you got the right to find out what you have and what you don't have. And you should be having workers' comp. You should know about it. It's just one of them things.
Yeah. But this is one of those things.
As a business, you got to have posters hung up. I got 2 posters in front of me, one in English, one in Spanish. It says the undersigned employer hereby gives notice that the payment of composition and employees and their dependents, and it goes over the whole thing. If they fall and get hurt, I have to pay it, and it tells you beginning and end.
I don't think that's a state thing, though. I think that's a federal law.
Yeah,
having those posters is on the federal side. Even though they're state posters, I think that's a federal requirement.
Yeah, get cash even if the customer asks for a discount because of cash. Somebody at Wild West says he has a stack of $100 bills. So
cash is king.
Wild West. Yeah, he's got a stack of 100.
What's that?
He's got a stack of 100s. Where at? Tell us. We won't tell
Yeah.
Let's talk about Groupon deals. No, I'm just kidding.
What's that? QuickBooks. We upload it.
Oh, no, you didn't. Oh, man.
What did I miss?
Nothing. Somebody's being ugly. God don't love ugly, Jerry.
Huh?
And if we make a cash withdrawal, it always with a teller on the withdrawal slip or get a receipt. We put where the money is going, and I email the accountant with the subject withdrawal date, so it's easy to find. Even if you're writing it on the receipt, that's not going to be good enough. I'm telling you, they're going to say that it doesn't matter, because I can write that I went out and I purchased donuts, but where's the receipt for the donuts? Okay, so now you've got a receipt, but it doesn't have the company name or it doesn't say donuts on the receipt. You might get away with that once or twice, But if you've got a whole stack of those, you're not going to get away with that.
Well, and I've actually bought some equipment before, and I've literally told the people, like, some old pieces of equipment, and said, well, I want, $300 cash. And I'm like, okay, well, you realize this is going to cost me $350 at this. So you got to take $250 for it. Well, why is that? Because I got to pay taxes on this. I've literally got to go and pay this. I've got to go get money out. I don't walk around with cash on me. And I mean, this thing is going through the business. So, yeah.
I like what Jim Bob said. I have a new hobby, collecting pictures of Ben Franklin.
And, I get that too. Like lately the people have been trying to get a discount for cash. And we would get those really.
What's going on?
And he's right. Cash is a pain because you got to take it to the bank. Your invoices are numbered. Pay taxes on every single job because you start having massive gaps in your invoicing system. They're going to want to know. They're
going to want to know about it. Why is it you did $8,000 this week and then you did $1,000, and then you did another? If it fluctuates too much, that could certainly raise a red flag for you. LLC versus corporation. I'll tell you my view on it is this. You go LLC, but you file as a corporation. That's something that your accountant takes care of for you.
Yeah. And really that's going to, we're always an LLC, but we filed as an S Corp. So, and that's something way above my pay grade. The nice thing about the LLC, any one of us can go down there and make an LLC today, with a Secretary of State. It's a great way to get into business, but then you need to talk to your accountant, your tax professional about how you need to file your things. I don't think most of us probably need to be an S Corp or a C Corp. But an LLC is going to work with that.
Yeah. Unless your name is Gene O'Neill and you get to claim you were out fishing that week.
Yep.
That's a very good thing.
Unbelievable for Gene because
he's got pictures to prove it. He can always just pull up pictures and say, "See here." Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So for me, LLC taxed as an S Corp.
Yeah. And I think that's Charlie on here, and he's right. It really does depend on how much you make on there, and that's where, and remember, in the big scheme of things, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. And in fact, that really can tie in and segue right into our closing on here because Jerry having the right insurance and all of that. I mean, it's not what you're making, it's what you kept, what you wound up keeping out of this whole scenario with your employee, getting stung on there, because that could have been potentially bankrupting to your company. Same thing with the taxes. You can make $1 million a year, but if you wind up paying out, $999,000, you really haven't had a great year that year. So we take advantage of tax regulations. We take write-offs. We take, deductions where we can. We make sure we're insured so that if something devastating does happen, hey, I was the guy. Whenever we started making good money, whenever we started making really good money several years ago, because we weren't, I grew the company from nothing to 7 figures, and it was around in there at what I considered to be really, really, really good money, where we were excess of take home of $200,000 a year, and I was like, man, this is sweet. I love this. And then all of a sudden it was like, crap, I forgot about that whole tax thing. And
that sucks.
We weren't paying quarterly. And all of a sudden we got whacked with a $40,000 bill one year. And it was like, that
sucks.
Yeah.
Not only that, but I'm going to tell you, having an accountant, it can really pay for them. They pay for themselves. So as a good example, when I started Cajun Soft Wash, it was, I started off as an LLC, but the first year I didn't file correctly. I didn't change it over to file as an S Corp. So on when I went to the accountant, she's like, dude, do you realize you would have saved $15,000 just by having that distinction change right there. And I think it cost me like $300 or $400, whatever it was, to have that distinction on there. So filing correctly and finding out the right way to file is a huge thing.
So yeah, so a $500 consultant to a CPA would have netted you $14,500 more.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's why this, you know, and a lot of us old guys in this and guys that have the business, and I mean, sure, I get it, but this is where I want to implore the new guys. I mean, this isn't, so much of this business isn't about the pressure washer. It's not about the Simpson machine that you're going out there buying. This isn't about the, I'm going to go out and make the $100,000 a year or the $50,000 a year extra. It's about the back end of the business. It's about all the stuff, because you might be one of the guys that hits it in stride and really knocks it out of the park. But if you don't get the foundations right, if you don't get the foundations right of your business, all of that could be for naught.
Yep, exactly. And I guess we're getting ready to sign off here. Let's do this one last one here. How does health insurance work? Can I still have insurance if my wife has insurance? And I'm going to say, again, get with your CPA on that. I would probably answer yes. I mean, you can have your own insurance. I had my own insurance separate from my wife's insurance, and it was a tax write-off for us. And there's a certain amount that you can write off and a certain amount that you can't write off. So bookkeepers and accountants, they pay for themselves in the long run.
I mean, we paid for health insurance for our employees through an HMO. I mean, we were really, really proud to do that. Let's see, get over 200,000. I want to read this, what Michael said. Get 200,000, suddenly pennies count. We have an IRS agent. He told us, well, building, spend as much as you can, but save money to pay even if you have write-offs. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
100%. Definitely. All right, guys. Jerry, thank you so much for coming on here and sharing that story. I mean, you really, you know, you can just tell by you know, your employees. You're lucky to have those employees, and I think your employees are really lucky to have you too.
Absolutely, I think they're very lucky to have you, and I appreciate you being on here, and I appreciate you being the man that you are.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
Hey, Doug, thanks for letting me on. I'll just send those nudes to your inbox.
I didn't hear what he said. What was that?
He said he'll send those nudes to your inbox.
The ones that you sent already weren't you?
That was my wife. She just forgot to shave her beard.
Oh, okay. That's okay. Now that makes sense. Now I'm flowing through with you.
Awesome.
My man.
Because it was the nudes that I had to send you that I wasn't quite sure about. But anyhow.
Hey, man, I love Jolly Ranchers.
We'll leave that one alone. Peace, y'all. Thank you for joining us.
Bye.
Bye-bye.